Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Shaur Sarfraz, and today's video is on cognitive load theory. Why this theory is so important, let's see in these pictures. Can you see a facilitator is there, a teacher, who is discussing or talking some of the knowledge he has. What about this image, this picture? You can see a person, a teacher is standing in front of a lot of students. There's a green board written with a white chalk about a lot of information. And you can see the bombardment of information to the student at one time. So the reason of explaining cognitive load theory in this video is very important, looking at the pictures that we have just seen. We will describe memory and we will elaborate on types of cognitive load. So the cognitive load theory was introduced as a foundational theory to explain how the human mind processes and retains new information during learning. The primary focus of cognitive load theory is on the limitations of working memory and how these limitations impact learning and cognitive processing. This theory has significant implication for instructional design and learning strategies, which is teaching and learning ways, methods. It was developed by John Sweller in late 1980s. There were types of cognitive load defined by him. First one is intrinsic cognitive load, where the complexity of new information needs to be simplified, which is break down complex topics into smaller manageable chunks, and also using the scaffold and provide step-by-step instructions. Extraneous cognitive load distracts working memory from processing new information, and this need to be reduced. How? Use clear and concise instructional materials. Avoid unnecessary animations, graphics, or text that do not contribute to the learning objectives. German cognitive load, which is the deprocessing of new information by integrating it with previous learning. We need to maximize it. If you can see, the dark blue area of the brain is covering that. How can we do that? Encourage active learning strategies such as problem solving, discussion, and reflection. Provide opportunities for practice and feedback. So, cognitive load theory builds upon the widely accepted model of human information processing, which was given by Richard Atkinson and Richard Shifrin in 1968. The human information processing model describes the process as having three main parts. Understanding this model is essential for educators and learners to optimize learning outcomes and facilitate the acquisition and retention of knowledge and skills. So here we have sensory memory. Sensory memory serves as the initial stage, capturing and briefly holding sensory information from the environment. It plays a crucial role in perception, attention, and initial processing of information. Then comes working memory, which can be defined as cognitive system responsible for temporary holding and manipulating information needed for complex tasks such as learning, reasoning, comprehension. It can hold 7 plus minus 2 chunks of information. So the information needs to be actively rehearsed to be retained. Long-term memory serves as the repository of knowledge, of our knowledge, basically, experiences and skills, playing a pivotal role in learning, retention, and accumulation of information over time. So what happens? Number one is information is coming from our, as we are looking at the content, so from the eyes, and we are hearing, listening, so from the ears. It goes into the sensory memory. Then from the sensory memory, it goes into third, which is working memory, and then is the long-term memory. So sometimes it happens that a chunk of information can be forgotten from sensory memory, but if we rehearse more and more in working memory, so it will get retained, it can be encoded, or some of the chunks can be forgotten if it is more than 7 plus minus 2 chunks. So encoding is very important when it is going inside the long-term memory. So if you want the information to go in long-term memory, it should be encoded well. And the strategies used for retrieval is also important. So human information processing model is very important to understand by all of us so that we can make the strategies that can help us to move in a way that there'll be nothing forgotten. Based on the cognitive theory and multimedia learning and human information processing model, Richard E. Mayer, a prominent researcher in the field of educational psychology, introduces Mayer's 12 principles of multimedia learning. What are these 12 principles of multimedia learning? The first 5 principles used for reducing extraneous processing and removing unwanted information. The other 3 are used for managing essential processing and words need to be learned. And the last ones are the fostering the generative processing and integrating material in working memory. So these are the 12 principles that we'll be going through in coming videos. Let's summarize. So we have discussed cognitive load theory, where we have elaborated on it. We talked about types of memory, sensory, working, and long-term memory. We discussed 3 types of cognitive loads, their implications about how the cognitive loads can be, one can be reduced, one can be maximized, and other can be simplified. We have discussed Mayer's 12 principles of multimedia learning. We have given a brief overview of it. In the next video, we will have discussion on 5 principles reducing extraneous processing and removing unwanted information, where comes coherence, signaling, redundancy, temporal contiguity, and spatial contiguity. Thank you.